Let's start with a story. It was about 7 years ago. I was visiting a friend. We were at a cafe in Nashville. Like a lot of people in her city, she had just moved there in the hopes of exploring a career in music. And she had some good things happen. She got some exciting gigs, she had released a few singles, and it felt like she had a good bit of momentum going behind her. That said, it was a few years since she initially moved, and all of it felt like an uphill climb. Plus, there was no guarantee that any of it would continue. I remember her telling me at some point that I'm at the point I'm asking myself, what's next? What happens if the dream doesn't work out? And I wonder if she remembers this conversation as well as I do, because I still think about it a lot. That question, what if the dream doesn't work out, is one line that's been irrationally lodged in my brain ever since. What do you do when the dream, the big thing you set out to do, just doesn't work out? So when you're young, it feels like you can dream infinitely, and your odds of that dream coming true are just as good as the next person's. I was at my kid's preschool graduation, and I heard him share that he wants to grow up and be a monster truck driver. And I think at that same age, I said I wanted to be president. You know, you could dream about being a pro ball player, you could practice your batting stance, craft your autograph, but the older you get, the more and more things start to feel too late, and it feels like you have less and less time to make it. So, fast forward to today. My friend is now a mom. She's gotten into real estate. I think she's still playing music. It's been a while since I've spoken with her, but I wonder how she would chime in on that conversation from today's point of view. I've been thinking about that conversation and that question a lot this week, probably because I'm on a work trip. I'm on my way to Thailand to meet people from a rural community and to record their stories on film. In case you're looking around and thinking, hey, that doesn't look like Thailand. Nope, this is Singapore. All right, I found a great layover where I could hop out and explore for a couple days. And really, the more that I think about it, I kind of have my dream job. And this is one of my favorite parts, the times where I get to travel, get to tell stories, and catch some other once-in-a-lifetime experiences along the way. I'm going to pause here to take in the Singapore River. And I get to have a lot of fun while doing it. So, have I made it? Okay, so ever since that conversation, I often think about my friend's question, right? Like, what do you do when your dream doesn't work out? What do you do if you don't make it? And what does that even mean? What do we mean when we say make it? Now, what's funny to me is that in so many settings, there's this gap between doing what you love and having fun doing it and what people think of as making it, right? Like, so often we think of making it as what happens when you can do something professionally, when you can get an income by doing what you love. And to me, that makes a degree of sense because a lot of people don't have the time or capacity to do what they love. It's like the realities of life and having to earn a living, that stuff gets in the way. So being able to do what you love without the disruption of work you're not passionate about taking up all your time, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I think that especially in the setting of the United States where people really identify with their work rather than just seeing it as a means to an end, I think you're especially likely to see career as the path to making it. You know, the less that your working hours are in conflict with the time you can spend in a flow state doing what you love, the more integration there seems to be. So one observation that stands out to me, and it's becoming so obvious now that I'm a dad and I watch a lot of kids programming, is that if you look at, shows for kids and young adults, like all the way back to the 90s through the 2010s, so many of those stories are based on the pursuit of making it, right? Like whether you might be Lizzie McGuire and suddenly get called on to participate in a world tour, or you could be Henry Rowengarter and get to pitch a few games for the Cubs in the playoffs. Like, so many stories are based on ordinary kids, ordinary people getting their big break. I feel like a whole decade of Nickelodeon shows were all about that. And in those stories, the big break often takes the form of fame or widespread popularity or money or all of the above. So this is the part where our definition of success makes me start to raise my eyebrows a bit. Fame and fortune? Now, okay, there are some reasons why it makes total sense to want those things. Like, especially if you're an artist or a creative, you're not making your work to just stash away in a closet somewhere. No, you want to invite that audience. You're making your work to be seen. And also, having a steady income makes it significantly easier to keep doing what you love. So yeah, fame, recognition, income, those are generally good things to have. It's not unreasonable for visibility and for income to be part of the picture of success. But I think when you go a little further, those are the things that make it possible to keep doing what you love. And they're much better when we think of them as a means to doing what we love rather than the goal of doing what we love. After all, it's pretty easy to think of examples and scenarios where these things get out of hand. Like, on paper, getting paid to do what you love sounds great, but how often do you hear of somebody just losing their passion for something once it becomes a job? And yeah, being recognized for doing what you love and what you're good at, that's a good thing. It's great to have an audience, and it's really great when that audience turns into a community. But I feel like at a certain point, just being more and more recognized, being more and more famous, that just would become a nuisance. And I don't think being famous is actually good for anybody. Alright, so I'm basically at Gardens by the Bay, which is this cool area of attractions, kind of by the waterfront. You recognize the hotel with 3 buildings connected with the giant roof on the top, probably the Ferris wheel, and then the super trees. So this is the Cloud Forest. And it's, there's a bit of a ticket to get in, but considering that this gets me out of the heat and in this big air-conditioned greenhouse, it's well worth the ticket. This place is massive. It's like 6 levels, and you start by climbing all the way to the top of the waterfall, level 6 over there, and then you start working your way down. I'm on level 4 now, doing the treetops walk, and this place just keeps going. So if you had the time for it, this would be a really good spot to just explore very slowly, because there's all kinds of info on the different plant species, the biomes they're trying to recreate here. You could spend a whole day just meandering around there. It would be a cool day. You'd be out of the heat for the most part. I can't spend that long here because I'm only in Singapore for so long, but I am glad I'm spending a chunk of time in the cloud forest. This is fun. So, with all this talk of making it, I started to wonder, what would it look like for me to, make it? The first thing I thought of was that question that people ask sometimes, what would you do in life if money were no obstacle? And that makes me think of an answer I used to give to that question quite a bit. I used to often say something that, I would want a food show on the Travel Channel or a travel show on the Food Network. That was kind of like my mental image of a dream job. Of course, and I'm especially aware of this now, there's a lot more to making it than just your job, your work, For me, relationships are a top priority. I want to have a robust community around me.
a happy family. I think of this post I saw on, I think it was Tumblr way back in the day, that was like, I just want to come home from doing work I love to a life I love with the people I love. And yeah, that sounds like it. Now what's amazing is when I actually think about it, I have this. Like, this is my real life. I get to travel for work. A big part of my job involves meeting people, hearing their stories, hitting record in some of the coolest locations. I get to do this in service of an awesome organization that's helping some of the most vulnerable communities become climate resilient. I have a travel vlog, and while it doesn't have that much of a following, I get to do it. I get to go eat interesting things in unfamiliar places and craft videos and tell stories around that. And some people watch. And guess what? When I come home from these trips, it's to the most amazing family. Deanna and I have it good. We have 3 kids who bring so much joy. Sometimes you actually gotta stop and take notice of when the life you said you always wanted, the thing you said you always wanted to do, ends up right in front of you. Sometimes it sneaks up on you, like it doesn't arrive in the way you thought it would, so it's easy to not recognize it right away. But sometimes I stop and think, hey, a lot of what I do on a day-to-day level matches what a younger version of myself would have wanted, and I don't want to miss that fact. So let me share with you what my actual image of making it looks like these days. A little while ago, I heard Judd Apatow in an interview. I don't remember with who. I think it was Pete Holmes. I suspect it was. Anyway, he was talking about his career and the feeling of putting out another movie and the nerves that went out with releasing it into the world. And I remember what he said. He said that he just wants it to be successful enough so they let him make another one. And I think that's a good benchmark of making it, of success, because when you want to do it again, that's kind of a good sign that you are doing something you love. That's a thought I've taken with me. Like when I started diving back into improv after years and years of not doing it, I just loved getting to play, and so my goal was to meet others and to get connected so that when my run of classes was over, I would have continued opportunities to get together and play. What if making it was simply being able to recognize when there's something that brings us joy, that puts us in a flow state that we would love to do over and over again, and then we get ourselves into a position where we get to do it over and over again, whether that's through earning an income from it or just having the space for it in your life. So yeah, back in the day, I would have said my dream job was some sort of food travel show of some sort. And you know what? I've released several vlogs featuring a food tour in Bangladesh, a challenge to eat as many international cuisines as I could in Toronto over one weekend, and a coffee farm tour in Guatemala. And, is that pretty much not it? Like, sure, it would be nice to have a production crew so I don't have to do as much editing and the stuff I'm not as excited about. But the work itself, the product, it's not far off. It's the thing that gets me in a flow state, and I can do this without worrying about how I'm going to pay the bills. So lately I've been trying to be intentional about reminding myself that the life I get to live right now is basically the same as the life I've dreamt of living for a long time. Like I've got this job where I get to apply creativity to climate solutions. And I get to travel, and being able to do something like that every day around awesome people, that's what I studied for, that's what I worked hard to do. What I spent years in grad school and at various internships working my way towards. And that's not even the best part. Like, I've got the best family, I married my best friend. There's this point where I didn't know if we would be able to have kids together, and now we have 3 awesome and crazy kids. Somehow there's even enough room for me to indulge the other things that bring me joy in life. Improv, art, illustration, travel. I've been able to go on some of the biggest adventures these past few years. Sometimes I get a little uncomfortable saying all this out loud, like it feels like a thin line between expressing my gratitude and sounding a little bit full of hubris. But I say all this because I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that all these things that I used to dream about, these things that used to feel like reach goals, are now my reality. And I don't want my daily to-do list to distract me from the fact that right now, my life is full. What does it mean to make it? For me, it's getting to a point that's beyond striving. My life is full. I'm not seeking something that's missing right now. I'm living out of the overflow. I love the work I get to do. I get to travel, and being able to do something like this every day, well, that's what I studied for. It's what I spent all those years in grad school and various internships for. And I've got the best family. I married my best friend. There was a point where we didn't know if we could have kids, and now we have 3 crazy, wonderful kids. And somehow, there's enough room for me to indulge all these other things that bring joy. Improv, art, travel. I've gotten to go on some of the biggest adventures. And so, yeah, there's always going to be projects, dreams in the next adventure, but no rush. I don't want to be so preoccupied looking ahead, trying to make it, that I miss out on all the good that's already around me. Today, that happens to be Singapore's Changi Jewel.
Like over there, food court that we know is going to have good options. Up there, I see this awesome like ropes course. If I had the kids with me, I know they would be loving that. Still looking forward to this waterfall turning on. More food. Walk by a bunch of hotels, so you can stay in this small airport jungle. I don't even know what to call this complex. It's called the Jewel. I think people just have to call it the Jewel because it's so many things at once. You just need a blanket term for all that. Okay, so kind of a funny thing. I got a bite to eat here at the mall. I finished up. As I was walking, I just hear a ton of people just erupt in this like ooh sound, and I immediately put it together. The waterfall fountain vortex is turning on. That ooh though was just when it started misting. So I rounded the corner, and just as I did, the waterfall had fully kicked on. Actually looks pretty cool, but I think what makes it even cooler is just everyone's reaction. And it's a waterfall in the middle of a jungle mall. Seeing people, I don't know, get a whole bunch of joy out of that in the middle of shopping or traveling or both.